Hi everyone, welcome. So for today's Zoom, I want to go over this week's module and talk about what we have coming up for this week in week 3. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll go through what's going on this week. Okay, so now we are on week 3. The main thing this week is that we are continuing to work on our wire project, and your progress photos for your wire project are due on Wednesday. And you should be about 50% of the way done when you submit. So hopefully by Wednesday you can be about halfway. You want to turn in about 3 photos of your wire sculpture, and this just keeps you on track. It also gives me an opportunity to give you feedback before you turn in your final project. It's nice if you have quite a bit done, because then I can give you feedback on what you've done. If you've only done a little bit, it is harder for me to help you and give you feedback on what you have done. So about 50%, we still have another week to work on it. So that's due on Wednesday. In this discussion board, you'll also be able to see what other students are working on, and I think that will help you kind of maybe get ideas and push yourself. So you'll be able to see, you can comment on classmates' posts, but you don't need to for that one. Okay. This week we also have a photography quiz. So I've had 2 pages so far talking about proper photos for your work. And so this is just a quiz that's due on Sunday about good photographs. Okay. Let's talk about our first page. So when you turn in your wire project next week, I'm asking for 1 photo that I call an altered lighting arrangement, but really it could be just shadows. And so the wires make really cool shadows. And so this is your opportunity to light your wire piece in an interesting way. So you're gonna turn in some regular photos of your wire work, and then 1 photo with some shadows. Now it's best when you take your shadow pick to use a single light source, unless maybe you want multiple light sources to make it look a little crazy. But 1 light source from a desk lamp or a flashlight will create a clear shadow. And you can adjust where you place the light to get some different effects. So if you're looking for a longer shadow, you can have your light kind of be on a similar height as your piece. If you have the light below your work, it's going to cast the shadow upwards. If you have your light facing down, you're going to have a little short shadow on the table. And you can play around with how close your light source is to your piece for shadows, or how far away it is, and that will mess with the shadows as well. A crisper shadow or a more fuzzy shadow. So you can use the shadows to help emphasize something in your work. So for example, if we were doing a wire skyscraper, and then you might want to have your flashlight down below your piece, lighting it upward, and the shadow will make it appear taller than what it is. So that will emphasize the height of your piece. So play around with it, pick something that matches with your concept. and see if you can match your shadow and lights to your concept. Many artists use shadows in their work, and so we're going to talk about a few of them here that I provided. So this is Anila Kwalamaga, and this piece went viral quite a few years ago, but there's a cube in the center of the room and a light source inside that cube, and the cube is really intricately carved out. And then you get these wonderful shadows on the four walls of the gallery that show this. The other great thing about this work is that as the viewer and you're walking around in the space, you become part of the artwork. Your shadow interrupts the shadows on the walls, and your shadow becomes part of the piece, really. So it's very nice. They said about the piece, the Intersections Project takes the seminal experience of exclusion as a woman from a space of community and creativity, such as a mosque, and translates the complex expressions of both wonder and exclusion that had been my experience while growing up in Pakistan. The wooden frieze emulates a pattern from the Alhambra, which was poised at the intersection of history, culture, and art, and was a place where Islamic and Western discourses met and coexisted in harmony and served as a testament to the symbiosis of difference. I've given substance to this mutualism with the installation project, exploring the binaries of public and private, light and shadow, and static and dynamic. This installation project relies on the purity and inner symmetry of geometric design, the interpretation of cast shadows, and the viewer's presence within a public space. So, really great work. We already looked at his work. This is Moto Waganari, and using that single light source on the side, he makes his jumping figures be larger. And so you can see more of the detail in these wire figures with the shadows. My Modern Met, which is a great website that shares artists and kind of does highlights artists. They wrote about his work. While observing the work, viewers find that reality is seduced by virtuality, and that an understanding of the space is as unique as the artwork. How the pieces are perceived depends on various angles, strength of illumination, and a personal awareness of each sculpture. The Playful Project explores ideas of perception and encourages viewers to think about how everyone sees the world differently and to view the world with an open mind. This is another artist, Bo Yoon, and he was a professor where I did my graduate degree. So what he's done is he's taken all of these body parts of people and just hung them, broken up. And then when the shadow is cast, they complete images. My Modern Met wrote about his work. Unity, which is what the piece is called, is a suspended illustration by Korean artist Bo Hun Yoon that takes fragmented pieces of dolls and transforms them into a line of people in suggestive poses. The numerous dismembered silicone rubber parts float abstractly in midair, hanging on their own strands of string, but reveal an entirely different image once light is cast directly on them. The shadow art produced from Yoon's methodically placed spotlight exposes the compromising positions hidden within the carefully composed parts. The artist says, I cut, I extend, I distort, I reconstruct, and I fragment the body to create a chaotic image of a human. This is Kumi Yamashita, and they use objects to create face profiles. And so shadow, when you first look at the piece, it wouldn't look like a person, or wouldn't be figurative. However, when you add the light source, then they become figurative. Culture Trip writes, Yamashita talks about her use of light and shadows to create her artwork, saying in an interview with Design Boom, "I love looking at light and shadow. I remember sitting on the patio of my family home in late autumn afternoon. The sun was setting and was casting the shadows of swaying branches of our fragrant olive tree on the ground. For me, shadows came to symbolize another dimension of life, perhaps something even more real than its holder." All right, so hopefully these are a little bit inspiring to you to play around with shadows in your own wire piece. Okay, the other part that we have this week that relates to our wire project is I want you to write a paragraph about how you are using and thinking about the elements and principles of art in your wire piece. So for this wire project, we're really focusing in on line and space. Those are the two major ones, but of course we have other elements and principles that that we're using as well. So I want you to think about how you're using the negative space, right? The empty space in and around the wires. Um, how are you using openness? Also, on the opposite of that, maybe you're using some denser wire in certain areas where there's a lot of wire, it's more tightly wrapped. How are you using that to create emphasis? How are you thinking about the space with clarity? And then how are you thinking about the wire and it reinforcing your concept, right? So maybe you're making something that is a heavy object and you want to use a lot of wire to emphasize the heaviness. So you can write about that. I also want you to write about how you're manipulating the line quality. Is it going to be crinkly? Is it going to be smooth? Is it going to be wavy? Is it going to be jagged? Um, what sort of line qualities are you using and how does that fit with your subject? Um, and then as you're writing, use some of the vocab terms and the elements and principles of art that we've already gone over. So your paragraph should be at least 5 sentences, could be a lot more. You should talk about the elements and principles and how you're using line and space. Yep. And it's okay if things change, right? Our project's not due till next Wednesday. And so if some of these things change in and don't stay till your final project, that's fine. Um, it it's okay if it changes. So I did a sample paragraph here that hopefully will help you with your own submission. This is due Friday, and you'll be able to read your classmates' responses as well too. Okay. So this will give us practice on writing about our own pieces. It'll help us when we go to critique someone else's pieces. And just make sure that you understand kind of how to use the elements and principles in writing and you understand their meaning. Okay, so that we have this week. We also have a longer reading. So this is our first reading. Throughout the semester, we're going to have readings, and most of them will relate to art, especially, but some of them will relate specifically to the project that we're working on. This one is more of a general art reading, but it's a good one to start off with because it talks about how to be an artist. This piece is written by Jerry Saltz. He's an art critic. Um, um, and so he has these 33 rules, and I think these are helpful for a beginning artist. I don't agree with all of them. I think some of them are also problematic. And you can talk about that in the discussion board. So go ahead and read this. This is one of our longer readings. This is the longest reading that we'll have. And then you're going to go ahead and respond to that reading. You might want to take notes while you're doing the reading because it is longer. And it is nice to call out specific lessons. Each lesson is numbered, and you might want to talk about a lesson specifically by its number. And so notes could be helpful. This isn't due until Sunday. But here are some questions that you want to think about while you're reading. What lessons apply to our class and how? Many do. Are there lessons that you disagree with? There are some that I disagree with. What lesson would you like to work on? There are some lessons that even I want to work on, and that I think are always good reminders every time I read this writing. What lessons do you and why? There's a few of these lessons that I think apply to other areas of your life. What lessons do you think apply to other aspects of life, and how and why? How will you apply any of these lessons? And then just your overall feeling after the reading. You don't have to respond to all of these questions. You can pick some of these, or if you have other thoughts that these questions don't really apply to, you can write about that as well. So post 5 to 7 sentences for your initial response. The post is going to be due Sunday, February 2nd, and you will need to respond to one classmate's post for this one. Okay. Great. All right, and that's what we have for this week. So you should have continue to work on your wire project. Read about artists using lighting, or watch this video and learned about those wire artists. Your progress photos are going to be due, and I'll try to get you feedback on your progress photos probably by Friday. They're due on Wednesday, but I work on Thursday, and so Friday for sure. Taking the photography quiz, wrote about your wire project and those elements principles of design. Read the article How to Be an Artist by Jerry Saltz, and then posted in the Jerry Saltz reading response, okay, and responded to a classmate's post. So that's what we have this week. Next week, you're going to be turning in your wire project. We are going to have our first critique on the wire project. And then right after our wire project, you're going to need a bar of soap. We're going to be doing a warm-up that is of soap carving in preparation for our foam project that we will do foam carving. So the soap carving, you're going to be carving your soap, and you'll be working on it for a couple hours. So don't get a soap that is maybe strong smelling or a smell that you don't like. You can also get colored soap. Sometimes the colored soaps can be really beautiful. Pink soap, black soap, green Irish Spring soap. So think of the color as well if you want a colored soap, but just one bar of soap that's in, a regular bar size. It could be round too. I've used Dove soap before, and that comes in a round, kind of oval. Just a typical bar size of soap, okay? So get that bar of soap. You might already have one at home that you can use. Ivory soap is very soft, and the dial soap is not the greatest to use for carving. So just take notes of those. All right, that's it. That's all we have for this week. If you have questions, you can message me on Canvas. That's the fastest way to get in touch with me. You can also email me. I'm checking my email all the time. And you might, next week, I'll talk about the next materials that we need for the foam project. And you'll want to get those new materials for the foam carving. That's what we're going to be moving on to after our soap carving warm up. Okay. I look forward to seeing your progress on the wire projects. Yeah, that's it. Short Zoom this week. I will be grading and writing to you all online. So look for my feedback. Make sure you are reading that as well. All right. Bye.